that chair and around there and back up.
Do this whole bag up, Tom?
I don't know about the whole bag. I don't know how many people are going to be. Break that camera, sure as hell.
Is this for tonight? No.
Huh?
It's not for tonight, is it? No.
Huh?
Is this for tonight?
Yeah, I guess.
You don't know.
Be like Carlin, take a chance.
As long as you don't. He said $2,500, and I thought, God, I wanted to get 5,000. And he said per wing. I said, okay.
Oh yeah.
I started loading within minutes. I mean, working on the taillights on the trailer, and I was excited. I said, I gotta get. They had to get out of the trailer and gone, and you know.
Yep.
Just, it was a. I just did a weight and balance. I'm 18, I think, empty.
I won't get cold.
Yeah. This book is more important than people think.
Well, you gotta have it, right?
Well, now you're asking me questions that anytime you're crawling a different airplane, you know. I hear you guys drive out of station.
Yeah. Pretty easy to figure out.
Yeah.
You need to go to town. There's all kinds of vehicles around
You
here.
were here last year, weren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you.
Oh, you haven't got all the stuff off yet.
I think
wonder where
Eric's
they were.
coming too.
Yep, he said he's camping tonight.
Who's camping tonight?
I called Eric.
Oh, Eric.
He
Yeah.
called me last Sunday or something. We missed phones, and then he called me about Wednesday, and I said, we're coming. We're coming.
Why'd you get these mats off?
Yeah. Yeah, I could start on that.
That's right. I didn't bring anything, so.
And lean on the back of the crossbar here,
Yeah.
and then you can just kind of get both legs in and hunker down.
Oh, if it feels like I ain't gonna go in there, I'm not even gonna keep
Well,
going.
I've pushed a guy in here before.
No, I don't need to be pushed in.
What do you mean you pushed him in?
But I got more leg than you do.
Yeah, you're a bit taller than me.
Am I doing the right thing?
Yeah, you look like a pro.
And lean back against that.
Yep, lean back against the seat bar and then. Yeah.
But that's it because I can't sit in it.
Yeah.
Okay, now.
So you'd have to.
Now you got to get out.
You can drop the seat sling down if you want
No, I'll get out. But yeah, that's what I run into is my knees are.
in the
You know,
panel.
I got an extra 4 inches of leg right there that you don't have.
Yeah.
Push it up on a storage area with a D6 and
That's hard on a cat.
yeah, it's fun though.
Two bolts are stripped out. Or the nuts are stripped out.
Oh my gosh.
Get her lubed up, she'll spin right around.
What was
wrong with the old windsock?
Wore out?
Faded.
Faded.
Gotta have a nice shiny one.
That's true.
No, not anyone on.
Stick it on there. There, it's taken.
Oh, you need grease in my hand.
Alright, we're good. Seam goes on the bottom. This side up. Big tag. Remember, I do this for a living.
That's why he gets paid the big bucks.
Yep. To put up wind cones. Just start here.
Don't you want to start down there though and work
No.
it out?
That's where all the excess was tied around. Or no, was it up here?
Well, should we start right here?
Yeah, let's just start.
Go.
Right
What kind of knot do you want?
there. A good one.
What's on the front side? Eat at Joe's.
Eat at Joe's, EAA.
A gallon a week, you know, she eats something. One of her favorite things.
I like the fun.
They came back like we.
It's that big. It's that big. Just those four.
Left here, circle back and come back through.
Blueberry pancakes, wild blueberries from Tom Omelet's yard.
Who am I talking to and where are you from?
Dick Barkowitz from Grand Rapids, Minnesota.
And what do we have here for an airplane, a Skyhawk?
Skyhawk 262, 1962.
And it's
Old 300 engine, 145 horse. Got 2,000 some hours on the engine, 4,000 something on the plane. And it's for sale for $19,000.
well, how did they get a hold of you?
Phone number is 256-1940.
Area code 218?
218, yep.
You gonna get a picture?
What is that? That the last call?
Last call for pancakes. Here we got sausage and a blanket here, right here. This guy's
He
eating
took the
sausage.
sausage only. That must mean something.
Yep. Otto's, show him. You got sausage and a blanket there, Otto. And homemade blueberry muffins.
The bestest.
Homemade blueberry muffin?
Wild blueberries. Wild blueberries from Tom Omelet's yard.
I'm good here, thank you.
All right. Take them. These pancakes are going like hotcakes.
Mitch waved it off. Is that what that was all about? He said no.
It's kind of softer concrete.
And, put you over here. Put you over here too.
Okay, well, we'll see what works.
Okay.
Gas thing first, I guess.
Okay.
But summer, this time of day, or this time of the week, the resorts are all turning over, so it's a good day to take off, actually.
And their weather hasn't been good this year.
Are you selling rides
Bob,
today?
you want your camera?
I will if people want to go. We'll just see how that goes.
Yeah.
What's that?
This one, I will take it. Grab. I was when I got
Yeah, let's grab this rope.
That's good.
Off of there. But he would never like the job that was done to it, and it wasn't.
Who am I talking to?
My name's Chad Holcuff from Bemidji, Minnesota.
I'm Ty Helvis, and I live in Bemidji also.
Where are you?
This is Moberg's seaplane base, and we're here for the Moberg's fly-in.
Did you drive in or fly in this airplane behind
We
you?
flew in on this 7 GCB Champ. This is both Ty and I's airplane we just purchased and been working on and just got her going just a couple days ago.
I just read 150 horsepower. Is that correct?
Yep, it's 150 horse.
Is that something you guys put in?
No, it came from the factory like that. It's in 1962 7 GCB, so it's a predecessor of the Citabria. So
Let me ask a very serious question. Do you have float fittings?
not yet.
We don't have float
geez.
fittings yet. We're chomping at the bit, but we do have skis. We're excited about that.
Okay. Is there any probability of floats in the future, or are you going to stay with the wheels and the skis?
I think there's probability of floats, but we're both learning here yet, so we gotta build some time first.
Okay. What else should I know about that? Where are you going to keep the airplane?
It's gonna be in the Nyes hangar in the Quonset right over there. Keep it at Moberg's here.
What's in the pot?
Sweet corn.
We don't have a lot of runway here, but I got this thing at the junkyard, and the guy said, well, haul it home, see what you can do.
Your corn on the cob, that looks terrific.
It does. Need a little salt.
Who am I talking to?
I am Chris.
And from where?
Chris. I am from Cloquet, Minnesota.
Did you fly in, drive in?
I did. I flew in with the Beaver plane.
Okay.
Yep. So.
And we have a tong here for the sweet corn. Perfect. Put the brushes in. Yep. Dessert. Let's see, do we have some relish? Else got relishes down. This is all
For salt.
salt.
Bemidji traffic. Skyhawk 805, turning left downwind of 13.
Hey, why'd you eat your cup? He was eating your cup.
That's all she wrote right now there.
Good morning. I'm Elvin Thiessen from Butterfield, Minnesota. I flew up last year, but this year I drove my Mustang up because I had so much fun.
How come you drove up? Weather?
Yeah, the weather. It sounded like it was going to be bad weather Thursday evening into Friday, and so it turned out beautiful. Now it looks like I should have flown up.
We got a plane coming in behind you.
Okay, let's watch this.
Okay. Well, first of all, we have to know who we're talking to and where you're from.
My name's David Hatfield. This is my wife Linda, and we're from Anoka County down in Minneapolis.
Is this your first time here then?
First time to Moberg, yeah. Been to Bemidji. But
well, welcome to the area.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Of course, this is your first time too because you came with him.
Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
listen, don't.
Not necessarily. She's a pilot.
Okay, well, don't wait too long. There's a lot of good food and sweet corn on the cob down there.
Excellent. Excellent. Thanks.
Hey, hi Sharon. speed.
2 days when you're out there though. But
It's kind of overload after
but
a
it's
while.
funny, a year later, you're raring to go.
Ready to go again?
Burger,
Yeah.
burger.
Get about all you can handle after a day or two.
Yeah.
Like for Chad.
A little bit of a crosswind out there.
right here, actually.
Oh, you right here?
Yep.
At Moberg or in Bemidji?
Well, all over. That's a little camp there.
Alaska made in US. Kevin. What is one out of this? Green and black and white.
All right, welcome to 2013 Moberg Seaplane Fly-In, and I'm here with Wally Lindquist. And Wally, where are you from?
Well, originally I'm from White Bear Lake, Minnesota, but right now I live in Bemidji. So I spent most of my life in White Bear Lake, and that's where I did most of my flying. And but now I haven't flown since 1980 was the last time I flew, because I'm 93 years old, so I'm all through with that business.
So tell me what it was like growing up when you were a young kid, 15 years old.
Well, you know, when I was 11 or 12 years old, I got my first airplane ride in a Ford trimotor. And by golly, since then, all I was doing was building model airplanes. And the minute I got out of high school, the government had a program called the Civilian Pilot Training Program. And I got into that, but I got into it in Los Angeles. So I sold it in the Los Angeles airport in 1941 in a fleet biplane it was. And then of course, shortly after that, then of course the war broke out, and within two weeks I got a telegram from the War Department.
So let's go back a little bit. Your first airplane was a fleet biplane.
Yeah.
And do you remember the name of your instructor?
No, I don't. He was about 50 years old then, so I can't remember his name.
And was he a military man or was he a civilian?
I have no idea whether he was a military man or not. He was an instructor at the California School of Aeronautics, and
was that in Los Angeles?
That was in Los Angeles at the Los Angeles airport. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how many hours did you get in that biplane, do you figure?
Well, I accumulated about 40 hours in there, and then they transferred me into a Luscombe. I flew a Luscombe, and then after that I flew a Waco UPF-7, which is similar to a Stearman, and then after I got my license, and I was going for a commercial when I had to come back home because of my father's health. So then I rented like a J4 airplane or a J3 airplane to keep my time up. But then, of course, when the war broke out, it didn't take long for them to get me. Told me to join the Army Air Corps or Naval Aviation.
And why did you decide to go with the Navy?
Well, the reason I decided to go there because they had a Navy training base in Minneapolis. And I thought, well, if I joined the Navy, maybe I'd train in Minneapolis. But instead, they shipped me out to Glenview Naval Air Station in Illinois. This is where I took my primary training. And after that, I went to Pensacola. And
were they using the Stearman or the N3N?
They had what they call the N2S, yeah, Stearman, yeah.
Okay.
And then I ended up in Pensacola, Florida, and trained in SUJs. I can't remember the name. North American airplanes, anyway.
Okay. SNJ, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and after that, Alfred wanted to know whether I wanted to fly fighters or bombers or what, and of course everybody wanted to fly fighters, and that's what I said, and they said no, we need observation pilots. So I ended up flying OS2U Kingfishers off of catapults, off of a cruiser in South America. So I got a lot of time, flew every day off of the cruiser.
So for people that aren't familiar with a Kingfisher, can you describe that airplane to us?
Yeah, it's a single engine airplane with a big float in the center and two wingtip floats, and it had a 450 horsepower engine in it. And so.
And how did they get that airplane flying off the ship?
They catapulted it. We had a catapult. People ask me, well, how fast do you go? I said, well, 60 knots and 60 feet. I said, that's the way it was. And that's about the way it is. And then of course, that was the easy part. The hard part was landing in the slick and getting hoisted aboard again. So they had a sea sled that the ship continued on the valve thing. And the big hook in the front of the float, and the hook goes into a sea sled. It had squares that were made out of rope squares, and you'd taxi up on that sea sled, and the minute you close the throttle, why the hook would catch one of those, and then it'd just go along with you, and just lower the hoist, and lower your back up again. But the tricky part about that was the ship made a slick so you could land in the slick so you wouldn't get caught in the big waves. But you always landed right towards the tail of the ship. So you had to watch out so you didn't overgo and end up in the end of the tail of the ship, yeah, on it. So.
What was the name of the ship that you were on, do you remember?
USS Marblehead was on there.
Marblehead.
Yeah, and it was first in the war in Japan, and then it was damaged, and it came back to New York, and they went in the back in the shipyards, and after it got out, I got on it and ended up in South America on a cruise down there for a year or so.
So what were the missions like? What job did they want you to do as a Kingfisher observation pilot?
We had 4 pilots, and 2 of the pilots would take off in the morning and 2 in the afternoon for a 4-hour flight. And we were looking for Japanese submarines or German submarines, and German and Japanese freighters hauling freight. That's what we were looking for all the time. And we occasionally found a freighter that wouldn't stop, and we'd have to sink it, and pick up the survivors. And we only had a couple of submarine contacts, but we never was able to find them. But we carried two 100-pound depth charges, and either depth charges or bombs, 100-pound bombs, one on each side of the wing on it. So, yeah.
So I would assume that at sometimes you got quite a ways away from your ship. How did you find your way back to the ship?
Well, that's the thing. We had a chart, and the chart went underneath the instrument panel, and it had circles on it, and you drew your course on circle, and of course you had to take into consideration the speed of the ship, the heading of the ship, and the wind direction, and so we'd fly for 2 hours out and 2 hours back, and the majority of time you wouldn't hit the ship right on the button, but you might find it in the horizon, and say it's either left or right of the airplane. You'd find but we did have pilots that got completely lost and couldn't find their way back. But we never used radio or anything. We always used lights so we couldn't use radio. So we had to use our dead reckoning and that sort of thing.
How many missions do you figure you flew in the Kingfisher?
Well, I flew. The only thing I can say is I flew on it for a little over a year, and we flew every single day of the month. So when you add all that up, I don't know. My guess is probably a couple of thousand times I went off that ship.
Are any one or two of them particularly memorable?
Well, yes. I got one time I went over backwards in the water. They forgot to take the cable off the cable car, and when they discharged me, why, the doggone cable car just barely rolled down there. And when it hit the end of the buffers, the airplane tipped over upside down, and that was the only experience I had. And I was temporarily knocked out, and the radio man got a hold of me and got me out. So
you were underwater for a while.
I was underwater, yeah, for a while. And so that was the only thing. There was one other thing. I dumped one over on its back. I got out of the slick and got in a big wave, and it took a wingtip float off, and that was it.
So when you're talking about the slick, that's the smoother water behind the ship going through heavy waves.
The ship would make a turn, and as it made a turn, it created a slick. So it was a smooth piece of water that you could land on, and it wasn't very big, but you had to time yourself so when you hit it, you didn't run into the tail fin of the ship. So that was the most hairy part about it. But most of the time, it was just regular routine. It got to be, every day for a whole year doing it. And it got to be just a simple deal. It was an experience I'll never forget, of course.
So you were in the Pacific campaign?
No, I was in the South Atlantic.
South Atlantic, okay.
We worked off the coast of South America. We had our ports were Natal, Brazil, Recife, Brazil, and Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. So, yeah, we were in the South Atlantic all the time. Well,
so do you remember where you were when you heard that the war was over?
Yeah, you bet. I was in Brooklyn, New York, and at the base, at the shipyards in Brooklyn, New York, and that's when I heard it was over with. But being a single guy, it took me about 3 months before I got discharged. So
what did you do after the war?
Well, after the war, I thought maybe I'd like to get an airline job, but pilots were 150,000 pilots were discharged, and the only time the airlines would take anybody would be pilots from multi-engine flying, bombers and that. So I gave that up, and I decided, well, I'm going to take advantage of the GI Bill, and I'll go and get my A&P license. So that's what I did when I got my A&P license, and so I went to a little airport between White Bear Lake and Stillwater, and they were licensing World War II airplanes. They were licensing them. So I got there, and the guy says, "Well, we don't need anybody." And here I am. I got an A&P license. I got a commercial license. I got an instrument rating, and I got a seaplane rating. And I says, "Well," I says, "can I make out an application?" Sure. Made out the application, and I put down 75 cents an hour just to get my foot in the door. He looked at her and says, "Come with me." I worked for 75 cents an hour for 3 months. and the foreman says to me, he says, "Do you know how to wash airplanes?" I said, "Yeah." "Do you know how to wash engines?" "Yeah." That's what I did for a month or so. But I got my foot in the door after that, and I had no problem after that. So I worked for 6 different aviation companies before I retired. And so, and then I went to the Air National Guard. I got a job at the Air National Guard. And so they told me in order to work there, I had to join the Air National Guard. So I had to join the Guards. So I joined the Guards, and I was there for a couple of years. And they had me flying co-pilot in a B-26 and a C-47 there on it, and until the war in Korea broke out, and I was able to get discharged because of my wife's health. So then I went to work for this guy called Ben Whiplinger. He builds floats, airplane floats.
At South St. Paul Airport.
Yeah, down St. Paul. Yeah, and I went to work for him for a while, and we were maintaining executive aircraft. And one of the pilots in the DC-3 said, "Would you like to go to work for us as a co-pilot mechanic?" And that's what I ended up going to work for Investors Diversified Services as a co-pilot mechanic on a DC-3. So I worked there for a year or so, and then they moved the airplane out to White Plains, New York. And I said, "I can't move because of my wife's health," so I had to leave. And then the Piper Aircraft distributor asked me if I had to go to work for him. And I went to work for him, and he says, "I'm going to have you as a service and parts manager," he says. So I went to work for him, but I went there for 10 years, and I'll be darned, I ended up flying all the airplanes instead of when I had to get people to work in the parts department and the service department while I was doing all the flying for them. So I figured out, but during that period of time, I guess I must have flown about 30 different airplanes, and then the last one was a Helio Courier, which is very seldom seen nowadays on it, and that was a strange airplane to work. But his salesmen, they all quit him, and he was an unusual. I had 3 character people I worked for: Ben Whiplinger, Shorty DePonte, and Jack Lysdale. They were all really somebody. I could have wrote a book on those guys. So they were hard guys to work for. So,
David had a question. Were you on a ship that sank?
No, I wasn't on a ship that sank. No, my ship. We ended up in Belfast, Ireland, though, and our ship was in the invasion of Normandy, but they took the aviation crew off, and we ended up in what was that? Palermo? No. I can't remember the name of the island. Sicily. It was in Sicily, and they took us there, and our aviation unit stayed there while they were fighting the war in Normandy. So, and then they picked us up afterwards, and we ended up back in New York. And so we were in New York when I heard the war was over. So.
My name's Roger, and what we have here is a 10-foot hydroplane, and it's built off the old plywood hydroplanes that popular mechanics used to build, and we all built them when we were little kids. So we decided, Kip Allen and myself, he's the designer of this boat, we decided we'd make one up in aluminum. So we had to try it. This is number 4, We have 2 prototypes and then the 2 good boats that we actually run in the water right now.
When you say prototype, that means you're going to sell them, or just for yourself?
He intends, as a designer, he's going to market those the boats eventually. We have 2 good ones that we can sell now, and so.
What's the horsepower on the motor?
20 horsepower. It's a 4-stroke, and they probably go about 30 miles an hour. They're a nice, comfortable boat. They're not so much a race boat, but they're good at and controllable in the water. And they're pretty too.
Okay.
We're just having too much fun.
rope all tangled up on his side over there.
Alright.
Going home, Bert? I think so. So like that or no? Committed?
No.
Might have went up to his leg. Drove by his house, huh?
Flew by his house and down.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah. One eight. 235.
All the floodplains. The two we had just left.
Is this Duluth?
Welcome to Moberg. Is this Montreal? You scared them away.
Yeah. A little bit of cement there, boys.
Yep.
Don't let it run over you, though.
Larry up back there. Whoop, hang on, or if you can grab a strap.
We're gonna turn it around.
Oh, we're turning. Oh, you're in the water. Okay.
I don't know if we can make it that way. Let's go the other way. The wind's kinda.
The wind's got you.
Grab that.
We're gonna turn around sometime.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna get the one on the tail there.
There you go. Take this one and get over that way, and we'll get this tail over there.
Good. How are you? Good. First landing in an orchard.
Here, we'll go to the back here and get her close. Yeah. There we are. Our water's way low. In fact, you know, pull it alongside right here. There's two tires there. We don't have to heel it up the ramp here. Sure. There's good water here. Yeah. Suck on her, boys.
No, we came from Park Rapids.
Don't let the airplane pull you in.
This is maiden voyage since the rebuild right here. I got a place in Clearwater.
Yeah, by the store.
Yep.
Yeah, yep. I'm up there. I got 5811.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. We just got done. Put her in the water this morning.
I'll be darned.
Mark's got a Norseman he was thinking about restoring. He's just been drooling over my project here, so I called him yesterday and said, hey, we're going to be launching her tomorrow. Next thing I know, he shows up in Park Rapids.
Where's the plane going?
We'll go back to Park Rapids tonight.
I mean, where's it going eventually? The Canadian?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Back and forth to camp. Back and forth to our cabin in Canada, I think, for a while.
Oh, okay,
I'll
okay.
keep it for a while.
Maybe it was a resort plane or something.
No.
Okay,
no, it's
who am I
private.
talking to?
Jeff Voigt.
Jeff Voigt?
Voigt.
Spell the last name.
V as in Victor, O-I-G-T.
Okay, and Jeff, you're part of Grand Rapids Aviation?
Park Rapids Aviation.
Park Rapids, just testing, see if you can hear me.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And you let this guy fly it?
I was standing on
the
beach with my thumb out. Next thing I know, I'm flying a Norseman.
Oh, jeez, okay. Well,
Thanks, man. Yeah.
I'll get closer than that. I just have to get a shot from here.
You good? Yeah, a picture.
Is there anything out here to get? Anywhere in thing? Like
No,
any
nothing.
plenty deep down the middle, he's ready to go down.
3 years of work.
I was gonna land on the lake and the engine cracked the frame up in front.
Do you do your own recovery work?
Yeah, well, we parked some of this stuff out.
Yeah, oh yeah.
He's got
Okay.
lots of